Just logging in. Let's see. Oh, looks like we are live. We are back. Welcome to another episode of Ask Someone Else. I've been told off by my admin recently because apparently I keep mispronouncing it and calling it Ask Somebody Else, and I lack consistency. So today I'm saying it right. Hello, welcome to everybody. I'll just let people log in. So today and every Sunday at 6 p.m. is a session where effectively we get to ask an industry professional or an industry expert something, in the property space. We get to ask them questions. We get to learn some free game. And today I'm excited to say that I have the man himself, Mr. Big Deals Only, Anthony Laville, in the building, who we're going to have as our special guest. So I'm going to add him in now. Let me find him and send him that invite so we can make the money out of this 45 minutes. Once he is here, I'll give him a brief intro, and then hopefully we can get to asking some really good questions. How you guys?
You good?
You all right?
Yeah, man.
I'm very, very well, thank you. And yourself? How's your weekend been?
Yeah, good. Yeah, fine.
Good.
Family time.
Good. So good that you take some. Luke, like Luke just said, I've been looking forward to this one as well. We've spoken briefly, I think, in a couple of like clubhouse rooms and maybe just DMs. I don't remember whose. I've kind of moved away from Clubhouse. I liked it for a little while.
I don't think I've used it for months either.
Yeah, and it kind of I think it almost just became a space where established developers used it to sell themselves rather than what it was to start, which was a really good sort of knowledge exchange. So I moved away from it slightly. So I try and when I have people on, I try and catch up with what they've been up to, what their story is. So I'm going to give you a little intro and then you can correct me where I've made mistakes. And hopefully we can ask you a couple of questions about your journey, your experience in property. So as I know, you started out sort of early 20s with a lettings and management business. Transition from there into doing some guaranteed rent, and from there quite quickly excelled into where your sort of statement has come from, Mr. Big Deals Only, and starting to do some larger scale property developments. I think the initial scheme was 70 units. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So initial scheme was 70 units. You've now got two further schemes, a commercial and shared, like mixed use, commercial and shared living, which is I think 200. Is it 200 units?
No, so that one's in the pipeline. That one we've got. So the 70 units one is still under construction.
Yeah,
that's under construction, and I've got a 48 unit under construction, both student accommodation.
Nice. And what was it that made you pivot towards student accommodation? Was it because that's where you came from? In terms of.
Yeah. So I like to say I'm site led, and so that development site at the time, on both of them, well, the 70 unit, I thought that was best placed for student accommodation. The 48 unit, I thought initially it would work as a residential apartment scheme. And then when I got into the pre-app, they said pretty much it's not going to happen. But student accommodation would work.
Yeah,
and it was like student accommodation is my bag anyway, so it was like, all right, bonus. And in fact, the numbers worked better as student accommodation, so it worked out better for me in the end.
And I think that's really important for a lot of people, whether you're doing a big deal or a small deal, pre-app is a really good place to learn and be able to pivot where you're moving towards, because just because they say no to option A, you should always have a plan B in place to what else you can do to make something work. So if we take it back, so you started in lettings. How did you find that as a sort of foot in the door into the property space?
It was good. It was a lot. I worked very hard at it. There was a lot of running around. Had a bunch of clients. We were doing heavily focused on tenant find. So we were finding tenants, student tenants for various landlords, ranging from your sort of HMO landlord through to your large purpose-built, like Unite Students, student accommodation provider in the UK. So we'd find a bunch of students for them as well. So we'd find students from everyone from the little guy right through to the £1 billion property accommodation fund. But it was hard work, and getting paid wasn't great as well. By the time you get paid, it was like you've waited this long for the money, and some of them would be poor at converting some of the bookings that you would have produced. For some reason they would cock up, and so it just got a bit tiresome. And it was like, well, what am I doing? But it was interesting. I learned a lot, and certainly got me my foot into the property market.
Would you say, did you network with people during that time? Did you meet any of the contacts that you went to do developments with during your time in property management?
Yeah, some of the people that I met during that, as a letting agent, yeah, for sure, I still talk to them now. Definitely some of the people. The 70 unit one, the guy that I partnered with on that was one of my old clients when I was a letting agent.
That's what I mean, because I think a lot of people, I don't know, I'm sure probably get a lot of DMs from a lot of people, particularly, those sort of late teens that are looking to get into the property space. And it's almost like everybody wants to know how I become a developer overnight. But a lot of the time, the steps that you take, whether it's through lettings or deal sourcing or rent to rent, that can build your network to allow you to kind of actually get into, to take steps towards where you want to get to in the long term.
Yeah.
But I think
people ask me, I've had people ask me in the past, oh, you started in lettings, and I want to be a developer. You started in lettings, now you're a developer. Should I start in lettings? And that's their question to me, and I say, hell no. If you want to be a developer, go and do development shit. Why would you want to waste time being a letting agent? And so, generally, my advice to people that want to be a developer is go and get educated. In terms of go and consume content, written content, podcasts, and all that sort of thing, and then ideally go and work with somebody that's doing it, or go and work with somebody that's already successful in development, and just shadow them. But clearly, you've got to bring them value. You can't just say, "Mentor me."
Yeah,
I hear that shit all the time.
Yeah, every day, and
it's all you do.
Have you actually? I know you don't.
I think I've approached people. I don't know if I've approached anyone and said mentor. Now, I have done that in the past years ago. But it doesn't really work. There's an approach.
Yeah. So for me, how I didn't have a mentor, but I had somebody that I was working with. I did some project management for other developers, and it was about a value proposition. So the first thing I did was I would just like, look, let me just be around and kind of soak it up. And it was like, okay, being around doesn't really cost me anything. But then from being around, it was like, I drove. So do you want me to go and pick up the materials? Do you want me to meet the builder on site? Do you want me to?
That's where the value is.
Yeah. And that's what it is, because
that helping hand. If you're when you're going to someone and saying, "Mentor me," it should be more of you shouldn't be saying "mentor me." You should be saying, "Let me help you."
Yeah,
this is my skill set. I think I can help you in this respect, and then that's how you get mentored. You don't get mentored by going, "Be my mentor." I think that's a tough way to. That's a tough way to get a mentor.
Because you almost need somebody who's reached a point where they don't want to do anything else in the space and they just want to give back. Because I know I've heard you say very frequently that you don't mentor. However, if somebody popped up and you were having issues with social media and they said, look, I'll run all your social media, I'll do X, Y, or Z, they were doing something that you really needed. It's all about a value proposition. Yeah. And if somebody can do something for you that you need, then potentially there can be an exchange of services there. But I think your journey for a lot of people is really interesting just because of the jump. And I think you've branded yourself very well in terms of Mr. Big Deals Only, which is you've lived up to. And obviously I've heard you speak on CEO Cast, which is a nice interview. So for those who haven't checked it out, make sure you check it out. It was nice. You spoke well there in regards to just what you want to do going forward. And it's just a case of, just because I'm doing 70 now, if I'm doing something else, it needs to be 3 figures. It might be, it might be 4 figures. It might be skyscrapers, etc. In terms of where you're looking towards. But you didn't actually, prior to doing the jump between property management and development, you didn't actually do any smaller scale schemes in between that, did you?
No, I've done house refurbs and stuff.
Oh, you did do house, because I've not really heard you speak about them. That's why. So I think it'll be interesting.
You know what? One of the reasons I don't talk about them is because I don't want to be known for that.
No, definitely.
Somebody asked me specifically.
Yeah.
So in fairness, I'm quite strategic with that. So yeah. I've got properties I rent out and stuff, and I've got properties that I've got HMOs and commercial units and stuff, but I don't I never talk about it unless somebody asks me specifically, because
I think
if someone's going to know me, I want them to know me for large development deals and large development sites, and then I'm more likely to get those things coming to me.
Yeah, I think the reason I ask, and I think it's important for me to ask, is I know, you know, when you know the demographic of your followers, and a lot of them are in that position, so they would like to kind of understand that transition between how you found those deals. So I guess, yeah, so in terms of your refurbs, what sort of stuff did you do? Did you do just straightforward refurbs? You said you touched on some commercial stuff.
Usually, for the most part, the refurbs I did were just HMOs. So it was either converting a house into a HMO or buying an existing HMO and just improving it and renting.
And that was in Birmingham, right?
Yeah, Birmingham.
Nice.
But even during, before I started buying properties, during the rent-to-rent phase, so I was a letting agent, and during being a letting agent during that period, I started doing rent-to-rent, so I'd lease these properties for, say, 5 years.
Yeah.
And even during that, you get exposed to basic refurbs. So you did some basic refurbishment work from that. I did it from that point. So that by the time I started doing it on my own houses, I already cocked up. I'd already been through the process on the rent-to-rent. So by the time I started buying my own houses, then I could go back to brick. Do you know what I mean? And start again.
You feel more comfortable because you've taken it from a step-by-step to sort of a light tidy up to a full refurb. And then the transition from, I guess, managing, did you have, when you were doing your HMO refurbs, did you tend to get a main contractor in, or did you project manage like individual trades?
Yeah, did it myself. And
how did you find that?
I don't like it. I never liked it. I hated it. And I never want to do it again.
You don't like it?
No,
I like it. I like do you know what I like? I love when I feel like I'm bringing a community.
You've got your own team, haven't you?
Yeah, no, I have, but because I run
different when they're your own builder. I used to employ a builder.
Yeah. So
I employed a builder when I got to a certain size. I employed a builder in house, and he did my maintenance and some basic, not basic, but if I needed something doing, he would take the charge. So that was easier.
Yeah.
But then even then, if it was a full house refurb, he'd be there. But then I still have to arrange getting other trades in, and that was long. I hated it.
Do you know what? Because I do both. Because I have like multiple projects. I have like my main team who be on a site, but then I might have a smaller project where I'll just say, okay, I'll project manage these individual trades, or I have like a project manager. But I don't know. I like the nuances of it. I feel like I've got so ingrained in this that it's so much fun, like dealing with my communication issues between my Jamaican plasterer and my Polish tiler. And, I have a lot of fun. I'm going to just remind everybody, for those that have just logged in, because we've got a few people that have come in. So today I'm speaking into Anthony Laville from Volume Property. Specializes in big deals at the moment. He's doing 2 schemes of over 100 units, student accommodation between 2 different schemes. And then in the pipeline, you've got a mixed-use co-living scheme, haven't you, with commercial on the bottom? And that's how many units?
So the mixed-use one, co-living, that's 180 beds. I've got another one, mixed-use scheme, that's built to rent. So that's 150 apartments plus ground floor commercial. What else have I got? I've got another small student scheme in the pipeline, which is only about 40 beds, but hopefully we'll be able to tie the site next door, so that would be closer to 100 beds. What else do I have? I've got.
And then are these all with the same partner, or you've got multiple partners for different schemes?
Yeah, so Volume Property is my company, and then on the individual property projects, I tend to partner with somebody on those projects. So they tend to be, there's a couple of people that are the same on some of them, but they're mostly different. I've got probably half a dozen different partners at the moment. Okay.
And are you actively looking for partners, or would you say you're currently comfortable with the people that you're working with?
No, I'm always open to working with new. So for the most part, I basically work with investors, so they bring the money and I tend to do all the work.
Yeah.
So for the most part, that. But the other thing I'm doing, which is what I put out on my social media actually, is that if someone's got a deal and they don't have finance or experience or anything like that, and they want to work together. I'm open to working with people that just have a deal, don't have the money, connections, financing experience. So, but for the most part, I work with investors that bring money. So they just bring the money, I do the deal. But if someone's got a deal, I'm open to that as well.
Because that's a lot of what property is. Obviously, being able to pull pieces together. Sometimes somebody might have a site and not have any idea how to maximize the value, and you can actually work with the site owner directly. I'm assuming if it works for you and works for them, if you can bring the money in, can bring the expertise. But I think you can take that ethos for those that maybe are not at a point where they feel comfortable delivering a deal of that size. You can take that ethos, back down to a more micro level to smaller development projects, and it can still work. The same sort of strategy can be implemented.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing, isn't it? It's just another zero on the end, a bit more work, but it tends to be about the same sort of thing involved. So, I mean, I've seen some of your projects online, and pretty sure you doing a 1-bed flat isn't too far off. Yes, there's a bit more work, and it may maybe take a bit longer, maybe, but it's not far off doing a 3-4 bed house, is it? It's quite. You've got
it's the same thing. I mean, that's the only time. The difference is whether or not, for me, is do I or don't I need planning? And then you expect a different return if you've got to take additional risk, because you have, obviously, everything in this investment game is about, risk and returns. If I have more exposure from having to wait for planning, then I'm going to expect a higher rate of return. But it's a lot of the same stuff. But then, do you not find, because for me, like, I've been offered some bigger projects, but you talk about project, like, self-project managing. Do you not feel that you're almost, like, I spoke about working with multiple trades, you're almost delivering that, but you're working with a head contractor, you're maybe working with your QS, you're working with your architect, you're working with a planning consultant. So you're still project managing multiple, not trades, but multiple skill set, but maybe this is a bit more
different though.
Why? Because you can email them and they respond.
You can't email the trades, can you?
You can't email a trade. If you try and take corporate world into building, you'll lose your head.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I guess it being a bit more corporate and a bit more professional suits my working style. So my working style is sort of emails, phone calls, and hold you to account. Here's the contract. This is what the contract says. This is what our agreement says. And it's less of a. And to be fair, I mix that in with a bit of I'm on site. This is what I'm seeing. Yeah. So I mean, I get on well with the team generally, but no, it's different. It's different. I like, if I had to do all of that on top of. There's so many facets to this game. It's just I can't even. It's hard to explain. There's so many different facets just to striking a deal, just to striking a deal with a landowner. There's so many parts to that, and then getting the finance together, whether that's debt or equity, and then sorting out pre-construction stuff, sorting out enabling works, and then going into the construction contract. And then drawing construction, and then dealing with the development management and the fund. It's just, there's so many parts to it. For me to have to then have a team that dealt with the construction side of it and construction managed it, no way. I can't see me doing that I don't think I'd want that kind of.
I don't think so. For me, shall I say that? You see, when you talk about all of that, like having to submit your like your construction plan and your like construction management plan. And do this, like, you see how you think about the trades, you think, oh, that's admin. That's how I think when I have to think about dealing with all these blue tape, red tape, yellow tape people. Like, so I guess I don't know, like, I'm going to kind of proposition something to you. I'd like to hear your opinion on it, that whatever you're doing, but we'll talk about property because that's what we're here to talk about, but it's knowing your strengths. Like, so I know I'm a very active learner. I like to be sort of hands-on and know what's going on. But when it comes to maybe the back office side or the emails, that's not where I excel. So I think for me, a lot of the time you have to understand yourself and how you work well to be able to facilitate, like, your for you to be successful in your industry, you really need to know what your strengths are and play into them.
Yeah, I agree. You've got to play into your strengths. So what's your proposition?
So no. So I'm just more. So I was saying, because you were talking about how, you know, you wouldn't like to manage, you know, maybe like the build teams and what have you. But for me, for example, sometimes I get offered something, but it might be do you know London well? How would you know? But for example, I might get offered like, you know, a nice conversion, but it's in Fulham, and I could do it, but I know the headache of that Fulham site because of the neighbours, because of the area, the council that it's in, versus going to do 4 projects in Croydon. I could do those in my sleep with my build team, whereas there's a lot more administration, a lot more back and forth with a certain type of site. So I think sometimes focus and specialization is
no, that's good. Focus and good, especially. But then I guess there's I don't know what your plans are, but then if you're going to go from the kind of projects you're doing to the kind of projects I'm doing and bigger, I doubt you want to be a contractor, but I could be wrong.
No. Of course, I think
I doubt it.
And I think that's why
you've got to take on all the other roles on top of that. It's just
no, definitely. So I think, but potentially, in the same way you said, you know, when I get a contractor, when I get to a certain stage, I don't want to be dealing with a contractor. I want to be dealing with one person. I want to be dealing with the architect. I want to be dealing with my planning. So I'll be dealing with all of those other sort of professional trades or professional specialists. I think for me, maybe at that point in time, I would take somebody on to maybe do the role that you're doing and focus on what I'm good at in terms of delivery. Because if I say, okay, I can raise the finance, but in terms of pulling around all of that, you know, that admin stuff or back office stuff, that's maybe not my specialist or where I specialize, then I don't know. I think it's just, there's so many ways to make money that you don't have to kind of. Sometimes I had conversations with people and I said, I want to do this scheme or a bigger scheme. And then I looked at it, and for me, at the end of the day, it's just all about return on investment. So away from sort of scaling up and like talking about if I was using existing capital, if I can have, you know, pipeline of, I don't know, about like 8 million or something off the back of these same type of projects, and the return on investment is 50%, then for me, it's like, why am I going to change and do something new just to say it's more units or a bigger property if the return on investment is the same and the GDV is the same? Yeah, but it just depends. Sense. Depends.
No, I totally got what you're saying.
London's
definitely
a weird space as well. Like I said, London's a weird space because property is so expensive that you can be doing a tiny, like, you know, maybe not tiny, but tiny in comparison. Well, like, so that I think there's 7 flats we're looking at from a house conversion at the moment is going to be about 1.7 million, I think, GDV. So it shoots up quite quickly.
That makes sense. Look, I think I mean, even in my projects, the one that I mean, all of them. If you looked at the cash flow on some of them, they're not far off having it. It would probably make sense for the cash flow just to have some HMOs instead.
Yeah.
Have a few HMOs and let the cash flow match it if it was about cash flow. However, what you don't get is you don't get the windfall, you don't get the equity. And so there's kind of like it depends what your goals are as well.
Yeah.
I think if somebody's goal is cash flow, so let's say you're doing what I'm doing, you're doing student accommodation. If your goal's let me get some good cash flow in, then I'd say probably best to go and get these HMOs and build it up, do 1,500 quid cash flow, whatever it is, a month, and do it that way. Whereas if your goal's a bit of cash flow, because, and then I'll throw random numbers, but let's say my building generates, I don't know, X number. Let's say
doesn't have to be. That's pick it up. Yeah,
let's say it generates 10 grand a month for me to do a £5 million building or something. Let's say the cash flow is 10 grand a month. I can get that same cash flow with maybe 6 HMOs.
Yeah.
So do I want to take this risk, spending £2.5–3 million on construction, this long-winded planning commission project, doing all of this, taking all these risks, and build something just to make 10 grand cash flow, or do I get 5-6 HMOs? I think 5-6 HMOs is a safer route, but then you don't get the equity. You're not going to get that.
And also, I think what you don't get, and what I've heard you speak about in the past, is obviously you don't get known for doing the big deal, because the fact that you've delivered on the the £5 million project means that when you go and pitch yourself to do your next site or your 10 million or your £50 million project, you've established yourself in that space. So I think it depends on what your long-term goals are as well.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah. I lost you for a second there. Yeah, you froze. I can hear you again, but I think I think you're back now.
We're back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on your goals. If you've got some big wealth building goals and you want some to make some sort of windfall of money, then I think I think the larger development deals are the one. But there's so many things that come with it. Yeah.
So let's talk. You just mentioned goals. Let's talk about goals. What are your goals? Like, what do you want to do? What do you want to achieve in property?
Once I get these current things off my plate, I'm just gonna move up. I'm big. I mean, my pipeline. I've already got some decent deals in my pipeline, so I'm just gonna go bigger. I'm going to take very strategic risks, and I'm going to do some larger developments. Just push my sort of comfort boundary. But I'm going to do it with an experienced team, and just tackle some more exciting projects. Look, I'd be lying if I said I'm not up for doing things like skyscrapers and larger mixed-use schemes of hundreds of flats, or maybe even 1,000 flats. Like serious placemaking type schemes. So I'm not for that sort of thing. I'm not in this. Can you hear me?
Seen that? Yeah, no, I can hear you. I say you seen that one in London recently with a little pool that goes across the middle.
Oh, that sky pool. That looks interesting.
Yeah. Give us a little sky pool, little Anthony Neville sky pool, yeah. Little logo in the bottom of the pool that when the sun hits it comes through.
I mean that's. These are large infrastructure projects, aren't they? And well, not infrastructure, but large projects. And you've got to, especially in doing skyscrapers, that end value's got to really stack up, because the build costs get absolutely crazy. And so, I'm game for all of it. I'm not going to be sort of reckless with it. I'm going to be very strategic and just do some really stuff that I can get company can be recognised for, and something that makes us stand out.
One thing I think that I've noticed about you don't, whenever anybody's asked you about your goals, it's never your instant response is never really financial. It's a lot of it is about achievement, about.
So what do other people say? Do other people say a number?
Not everybody, but people do. Like a lot of the time, if you just ask somebody what are your goals, then I've heard a lot of people, they have a not to say that they're very financially focused, but I've heard like I want 100 million under assets under management. I want X. I want But I think it is interesting when somebody when you ask them their goals, they're a lot more they're related to something in terms of trying to build statement pieces. You spoke about obviously managing risk as well, so it's not just all about I want to make as much money as possible, but I want to be successful, but balance the risk. Yeah. And do you find, like, obviously you mentioned the weekend is for downtime. Do you find like that you get consumed in the workspace a lot? Like how do you relax?
How do I relax? Ooh.
Well, it's a difficult one with someone else.
No, you're still repping your.
I just wear. Listen, you see, in the same way you got a tagline, but I just wear it now. Like this is my go-to. Like to be honest, unless I'm on holiday, you're gonna see me in just branded clothing because.
Good. That's how it should be.
It's just.
I'm wearing this little shit thing.
Actually, like what?
Well, I don't know.
You need to see that volume properly. Exactly. Get the hat on, man. Get that on. Let them know.
Video.
Exactly that.
The
Exactly
video
that.
thing. Yeah.
Exactly. Let's see that.
I knew I had to have something branded, something around it.
You have to. Yeah, but how do you? Is there something, or do you not feel like you really do get to switch off?
I think I do. I definitely commit a lot more time to family on the weekends. Not so much in the weekday, but definitely a lot more on the weekends. I do work on the weekends, but not as much.
Like, do you have all your emails going through to your phone?
I do. What's that?
Do you have all your emails going through to your phone?
But my phone doesn't ping. I can see them on my phone.
Okay.
But I turned that ping off years ago.
Yeah. No, I don't think.
Well, my phone doesn't even ring.
Yeah, it doesn't even flash. They even get anything.
My phone doesn't even ring, let alone ping. Doesn't even ring. Only rings for my my wife and my mum.
Oh, okay, good.
I think I had my brother on recently, but doesn't even ring because I learned a long time ago. You get very reactive. So I kind of just if I touch my email, it's when I physically go into the app.
You have to go into it.
Yeah.
Because I had a conversation.
But, emails are just one part of it. I think if you're on your emails a lot, then you're probably being very reactive, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's probably when you're not on your emails. It's probably when you're making the most progress. Like the real tangible stuff is probably the stuff outside of your emails.
That's good, man. It's good. It's good. It's always good to have these conversations. I think obviously there's been a couple questions just in whilst we've been talking, and I think a lot of people obviously because they're very early on in their journeys, so they may be at the sort of exploratory stage where they're just looking into property, they're researching. So if we sort of take it back, obviously everybody likes to know about mistakes they could potentially avoid. Maybe a lesson learned that you'd kind of say in hindsight something you would have done differently.
Lesson. So I'm going to just keep relating it to the larger stuff. Focus is a big one. Focus is my number one thing. Just work out where your time and your energy and your efforts are best spent, and what's going to yield you the most results, and keep pushing for that. So focus. And once you've picked what you're doing, stick at it. Don't get distracted by all these other little shiny things. Just keep going for the same thing. So for me, I know that deals basically solve all my sort of problems. That's the way I see it. So if I pull off and see through large deals, then everything else is fine and will fall into place. So I kind of keep that as my focus. Don't get involved in other short-term opportunities and stuff. Not that I've definitely done stuff that I shouldn't have done. Yeah, little ventures and stuff, and it's just a distraction. And you learn the hard way when you lose money. Yeah, or you've wasted a bunch of time on it.
I think time is definitely, you can make money, but wasting time a lot of the time is where you really see that what you should be focusing on. So with your deals, I mean, can you talk us through how you go about, I guess, not like a specific deal, but just for you, what your steps are on kind of finding a deal and taking that through to, making it work. So actually, not necessarily the execution of it once purchased, but just from finding a deal to kind of getting it across the line.
So I'll talk specifically about my the one that I've hosted about the most, the Hamley Street one. That might be helpful. But I'll say what I do, and then I'll talk specifically about that deal. So basically, I look for a potential development site. I make sure I'm looking in an area that I know is pretty decent to begin with. So I want the area to already have decent values, and for there to be a demand already for some kind of accommodation, whatever it is that I'm going, whatever it is that I'm trying to build. Do that first. Then I look for a potential development site, whether that's an old industrial building or a piece of land or a car park or whatever that is. And then look for that. Once I find something that I think is suitable for development, I then contact the owner. I find the owner's contact details online through LandReg or some other software, like Land Insight or Nimbus Maps, whatever it is. to find the owner, find out information about the site, contact the owner. Once the owner gets in touch, after I've followed up, send letters and whatever other means I've used to communicate them, email, phone number, I ask them if they want to sell. And if they say yes, I say, look, I'm a developer, I'm not interested in owning a car park. I'm only interested if I can build something. So if you're up for it, if I can buy your site once I've got planning permission, I'm game if you're interested in selling. They say yes, I go, all right, look, give me a week. I'm going to go and get a feasibility study. So then I'll go and get to an architect. And if it seems contentious, a planning consultant or whoever else I need, maybe a civil engineer, and work out some of the risks on the site and see what I can build. Once the architects and the others and a planning consultant tell me that it's feasible, they tell me how many units I'm likely to get on that site, I then take those units, work out the gross development value, and then work out the cost, the rough build cost. I generally know what that's going to be anyway from experience. If I don't, then I'll just contact a contractor and ask them to give me a rough indicative price of what it will cost to build it. And then I'll GDV minus development costs, so I'm going to minus my construction costs, minus my development profit, 25%, 20, 25, 30%, whatever it is. And so construction costs and other holding costs and development profit and finance costs. And then I'm going to work out what I can pay for the site once I've deducted all those figures. And that's the offer I put forward. And the offer I put forward, I try and make sure there's a little bit of a margin in there just in case I have to sell the site planning and I don't go on to develop it. So you don't really want to leave, you don't want to squeeze all of it, because then if you have to sell or the market drops or the values drop, you don't want to be stuck. And then that's it. Then I put in the offer and then put the offer in, and then you follow up like crazy. Because very rarely do you put the offer in and then the person says yes straight away and then you do a deal straight away. Sometimes they'll say yes straight away and you've got to keep pushing and plugging at it. It could be for months before you actually get something signed. And then that's it.
That's your subject to planning.
Well, I mean, I've produced I'm not trying to pitch anything, but I've actually produced a guide. So that I put the link in my bio. But I get these questions all the time, like, how do you do it? How do you do it? And I'm sure, I know I've told people this a bunch of times. I tell them on videos and I tell them on YouTube, but it just leads to more questions. So I said, look, I'm going to produce this guide, and this guide is going to lay out exactly how I do it. And it's up to people to, if they're interested, purchase it. If not, whatever, I don't take it. I don't sell courses and stuff. I'm not into that sort of thing. But if they want to know how I do it, it's going to be in there in detail. But I give out the information anyway. I'm not hiding anything. If you ask me, I'll tell you. But I'm going to give a lot more detail in that guide. But that's pretty much it. And that's what I did on Hanley Street. I found the site, found the industrial building, found the owner's details, found it was owned by a company, then checked company's house. Company's house told me that he was a director of another company, contacted that company. He wasn't in, I called up, he wasn't in, got his email address, emailed him, and done the whole deal, believe it or not, from finding the site to contacting the owner, to getting the option in place, to getting planning permission, to buying it. The whole thing was done by email. Never met the person or spoke. To this day, that was years ago. To this day, and the guy's a chartered accountant.
When I hear to this day, all I can think of is Deontay Wilder. Do you remember that? Do you not remember there's a video he goes, to this day? I can't remember it. Yeah, that's all I can think when I heard you say that. But yeah, no, and I think
to this day I ain't met him. I've not met him.
But for a lot of people that are looking, on a way smaller scale, the fact that obviously it's not going to work every time, but the fact that you were able to achieve that on such a massive project just shows that, you shouldn't look at, on a much smaller project or, even a similar sized project that it's not possible. It shows that it is. It's the same thing. It's just a case of
same process.
How you go about it. You have to ask. If you don't ask, you don't get. A lot of the very old sayings ring true in so many different ways. And I think that's very true in the case of property.
Literally. What I just said there, but some people just don't want to buy it. What I said there, that's all you need. Literally, that's all you need. And some people don't want to believe it. they want more information, they want more detail. That's literally all you need. There's no excuse. And I worked this out by myself.
Yeah.
I worked out the GDV. I worked out, shit, how much can I pay for this site? Well, I must know how much it's going to be worth. I worked out the fucking...
And you're offered...
Then I see people pitching this stuff, but I worked it out on myself because I thought, I'm going to go and do this deal now. I've been hanging around here I've been doing this for years. No one's going to bring me a deal. I'm a letting agent. Who's going to come and try and partner with me? No one's going to try and bring me in on a deal. I'm not going to be shareholder equity partner, am I? No one's going to bring me a deal. So I just thought, I'm going to go find my own deal. And I found it, and then I had to work out. I didn't even have the answers beforehand. I just knew step one was finding a site.
And that's the other thing. It's like you said, in terms of working out what your GDV was, we can work that out. Like, we know what stuff is going to be worth. There's precedence of what stuff is worth. You can work it out. I mean, you can take industry rates from a construction cost, or you can just ask a contractor who wants to work. Yeah. They're going to speak to you. In terms of working out the gap of your profit, it's pretty straightforward to work that element of it out.
Everything you want to know, somebody knows, or it's in a book. Someone has the answer that you're looking for. They either know it or it's in a book. So what? There's no excuse.
Yeah. And was that was subject to planning, that offer that you
Hanshaw, subject. No, it was an option.
Oh, it was an option. Okay.
Yeah.
An option.
So
would you now, obviously maybe not now, but let's obviously talk in pipeline, do you think to increase your returns, would you start to purchase like without subject to planning in the future?
I've bought sites before.
Okay, just bought them on the basis
unconditional,
that
cash.
Yeah.
The sites that I've done that on to date, I can rent them out in the interim. So there's a plan B.
And to be honest,
not a great return, but there's a fallback.
Or if you get too busy, or you say, you know what, that project isn't the size I want to do now, you could sell it with the planning game because you bought it at the right price to start with.
Yeah, exactly. That's the main thing about this, paying. Big part of this is paying the right money to begin with, not overpaying for sites.
That is literally, like, everybody always asks me, like, in terms of how to avoid mistakes. And I say that if you buy at the right price at the beginning, you can get something wrong on the construction. There can be an issue there can be so much things because your margins are there to make mistakes because you bought at the right price. You can't change the ceiling price, or you can't change you can tweak it slightly, but you're not going to reinvent the wheel when it comes to what something's worth at the end. But if you pay the right price at the beginning of a deal, you can almost make every other mistake and still make money.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is what's very, very key.
That applies at every level, any size deal.
Literally.
That just applies across the whole of property. Very true.
So Future Junior has asked if there's any books on property you would recommend.
Books? Well, first of all, you don't need a book. Just do what I said. If you really need a book, then the books I've really liked is, and this is for the big stuff, Donald Trump, Art of the Deal. That is a good book. Whether he's lying or not, it probably is. It's a good book. So Art of the Deal by Donald Trump. And The People's Principles by Don Peebles, some American guy. Peebles Principles. And so they're the two property ones, People's Principles and Art of the Deal. And the one that I like is The One Thing is about focusing. And then the E-Myth is about systems. So I've got 4 books there. E-Myth, The One Thing, and then Art of the Deal and People's Principles. But People's Principles, I only read that book maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Art of the Deal, probably similar. So I didn't read those books before I got started.
Yeah, a lot of the books I've read have been very recently. But because I'm potentially going into bigger stuff, or I like very sort of almost academic books. So there's this one, Property Development by David Isaac, which is just that. It was this one, sorry.
Okay.
It's like this one, and what's this other one?
God.
This one as well.
Can you hear all that?
Yeah, don't worry. Can hear it a little bit. But you're fine.
Go ahead.
But yeah, they're good. Like if you're just trying to learn around like different specific topics, like I had an issue, for example, with like affordable housing and the contribution, and the amount we expected it to be was like they literally added on a zero. So we're just kind of trying to work out how you came to this, but literally off the back of maybe a chapter which was like 12 pages, like rebutted what we got from the council and basically got it down to what we expected. And that's just from something like this. So having these, not just to maybe sit down and read them all the time, because it's not the funnest
send me
read.
that one. I mean, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, no, they're good books. I will. I'll put them up. So I'll send it. So this is Property.
Who's it by?
David Isaac.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and then this one, like this is another. They're proper, like they're the university books. So they're the ones that it doesn't matter if they're 20 years old, they're still going to be £100 book because you need them for your course. Supply and demand. Yeah. But they're good books. They're well worth it. Amazon next day delivery. I don't get any money out of them. I'm not trying to pitch anything, but I've enjoyed them and they've helped me save a lot of money. Like it's really, really good £100 spent. Particularly like with those little issues, a lot of the time you could just go to it's almost like going to case law of actually that's not really right.
Yeah. But that helps as well if you've got a good team around you. That can it helps as well. But if you can definitely, and this is one of the things about how you said you're very involved. I'm just saying I like to know what's going on. So you're kind of prepared for later on. If you've got a good team around you, pay attention to what they're saying. There's some materials you can read up about them. It's like the construction, even though I was there during the piling of both projects, I still went and did some reading on it and watched some videos and learned about different types of piling and how piling works and the construction methods. And then I learned about the whatever goes on top of that. Do you know what I mean? The ring beam and then the rest of it, subfloor, and then a different type of construction type. So I still read up on the construction and I ask a lot of questions.
I think that's so key. Always ask questions, because
even if I think I know the answer.
Yeah, because it's just also sometimes two people have a different perspective. Exactly. And even just being able to, like, say, use an example of the piling, the foundations, like the whys. Why are we doing it like this? Because you might have seen somebody do it in a totally different way. And also asking questions means that people need to have the answers. If I ask you a question, you don't know the answer. Now I know I maybe need to be concerned and start to look into it a bit further.
Yeah, exactly. Important. It's just about being active, isn't it? I think if that's the approach you take, then probably on top, isn't it?
No, that's it. So when are we gonna get the Anthony Neville skyscraper? 2025?
2020. What? Needs to be before then.
2024?
A skyscraper. Well, it's going to be at least 2.5 years to build, isn't it? And I don't have one right now.
That's what I get. I thought 2025 was reasonable.
Yeah, it's probably 2024.
Yeah, there you go. You want to be cocky.
It's probably 2024.
Yeah, 2024. 2024. We cut the ribbon like
maybe
January
2023, but let's say 2024.
Okay, good stuff. So I know you said you haven't really got anything you're pitching, but I know you're about to have your show flat ready soon. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah,
show flat ready. So for those looking for student accommodation, make sure is it Volume Property they should follow, or where should they find you guys?
Yeah, I mean, look, so we've got an Instagram, Volume Property. We've got two buildings that are ready for September for student occupancy. So one is Bridge Street Studios in Birmingham, and the other one's Volume Works in Birmingham. Both central, both walking distance to Aston University and Birmingham City University. But I've got this guide coming out, so this one-off guide that I'm doing. If anyone's interested in the guide, just go to my my profile, links in my bio, and just fill out your details. Just put you're interested in the guide, and I've started to lay it out. So I'm going to write it quickly with the help of I'm going to write it, and then I'm going to have a writer proofread it and make it sound
publishing
better. And I'm going to put it out. So if you're interested, sign up to that.
Yeah. Now, for those that don't already follow Anthony, I definitely recommend it. There's a lot of interesting stuff over on his page in terms of what he's doing. It's quite different to a lot of the people in the property space because he is Mr. Big Deal. So I definitely recommend going to follow him on Instagram. You're on YouTube as well, right?
Yeah, I'm just quiet. I mean, I do intend to come back. You're quite prolific.
Do you know what? I'm rubbish.
Prolific.
I'm rubbish on YouTube. I've literally.
To be fair, I've not seen YouTube, but I've seen you're prolific on Instagram. You post way more than anyone that posts more than me.
Because, do you know what's crazy? I've literally got a hard drive of like 30 videos, but I'm rubbish at editing. So I've got all these videos and all this content, all these projects I've been working on, but I just need to sit down with like my videographer and just be like, look, just get all these sorted and just go and flood the world. But it's a balance between, obviously we're busy in real life, not just in the social media world. So it's hard to do both.
I always say I prioritize work, but I should have another videographer starting this week, hopefully next week. So let's see how that goes. I've had a bit of a bad run with videographers. I had one when I first started doing the social media thing. I started off with a good videographer for about a year. That's where I put out. I mean, I had probably about 200 followers on Instagram, just my friends and stuff. Yeah. And so I started to build it then, and then I did it for about a year, and then I've gone dead. And so I want to start it again on social media and really go into these larger projects. So yeah, if anyone's watching, subscribe to my YouTube. It's coming.
Makes sense because there's a massive appetite. I know, like it's hard because
look, that's what Kev said there. Videographer number 32. You know my struggles.
Nah, there is. Don't worry. I've got some people for you. I'll put you in touch with them. They're actually some of them are based around. Some of them are based around jewelry. I've
got a guy that's meant to be doing some filming this week, but man, the streak that I've had.
Don't worry. I'm gonna send you someone.
Makes me want to just continue to be a developer.
Yeah, you can be a rock star as well.
Like you.
Nah.
I'll be like you, man.
Yeah, that's the typical Jim. I want to be like you, big man. Yay! Nah, it's good, man. It's been a pleasure having you on. I'll let you get back to enjoying the rest of your weekend, what's left, then back to the graft tomorrow. But definitely, I think we'll have to do something potentially. I know I'm coming to Birmingham at some point, so I'll come and see.
Come down, man. Give me a shout, man.
Yeah, no, I will.
I'll show you around.
We'll do. Much appreciated, everybody. Thank you for logging in. We've got a different person next week, each and every Sunday. Ask someone else. I've said it right twice this time, so I've been amazing rather than somebody. Have somebody else every day, every Sunday at 6 p.m. Make sure you're following myself and Anthony on Instagram, on YouTube. Get locked in. There's loads of gems, loads of free content out there, loads of opportunities to learn and loads of opportunities to help you excel and you make money. Thank you for tuning in. It's Property by Kazi and Anthony. Peace.